Welcome back. Lots of stocks to track today, and we have Dipan Mehta joining in with some fundamental ideas and perspective now. Dipan, good morning. Always great to have you on the show. So, just taking off from yesterday, the move in PSU banks was absolutely fantastic, right? I don't know if it was all the finance minister speaking or if it is, I think more realistically, this hope of a CRR cut tomorrow. But your sense, whether you would play for the, even a quick trade, assuming that there is policy softness ahead, and if you like anything in the PSU banking space.
Yeah, good morning, Surbi, and thank you for having me on your show. See, generally, we want to be neutral to underweight banks because there's a lot of competition and the entire NPA also related issues are cropping up in the quarterly numbers. But within the banks, I think the PSU banks, especially tier 2 banks and SBI, their growth rates, their NPA management, their quality levels, technology platform is fast catching up with private sector banks, but their valuations are still at a huge discount. And I think we are seeing a very strong shift of capital moving away from the private sector banks, the likes of HDFC, ICICI, Axis, back into the PSU banks, where I think there's a good trading opportunity. And medium term to long term also, they may outperform the private sector banks. So within the banking space, I think investors are making space for PSU banks at the expense of the private sector banks.
Dipan, what's your view? It's that sort of a market where things get very, very exciting and then, people jump onto it. Yesterday, I think HEG almost ended at circuit. Maybe these stocks are due for a cool off. Your take?
I guess these things happen in a bull market and such misunderstandings, for lack of a better word, can take the stock price significantly higher. Any case, investors looking for good ideas and new trading ideas and investment ideas. But the long-term prospects of both HEG and Graphite India link very closely to steel industry. And our view on commodity stocks like steel. End of the day, I think it's a cyclical business which is valued at very high P multiples. I think HEG goes at 60 times, Graphite about 25, 26 times or so. And there are times when these companies have created a great deal of value when there is something in the sector which results in significantly higher end product prices. But then those also tend to cool off because capacities come into play. It's not that difficult to raise the capacity for the graphite electrodes that these two companies manufacture. Both of them are anyway expanding capacity at a steady pace. So I'm not that keen on any of these two companies for the time being. If there is a cyclical play, then the best time to buy is when they're at absolute lows, which they are not at this time.
Well, the thing is, sometimes people stop asking the most obvious questions, and those are the questions we were asking Nigel, and he was, telling us, giving us perspective yesterday while the stocks are flying. I was also wondering that graphite electrodes are used in steel furnaces, electric arc furnaces.
Yeah.
And the graphite that's getting banned to the US is, the mined graphite perhaps, or some other category of graphite that's going in defense uses or, some kind of, semiconductor uses, etc. So steel arc furnace, electrode, mined graphite, it wasn't making any sense to me. But I guess that's the market.
Well, that's all right. That's the market for you, or Bhav Bhagwan, right? So we'll have to see how that moves today.
Yeah.
Nigel was saying, Dipan was saying misunderstanding. I call it willingly suspending sort of reality or whatever you want to call it. Kuch to ho raha hai, dekhenge. And,
buy now, think later. I call it the buy now, think later psyche.
Well, but yeah, this is important, and I think it's good that we are putting this on the record. We did this yesterday as well. Nigel put this on the record yesterday in the afternoon as well. So, important to remember.
Dipan, what about you? What's your view on Bajaj Auto as well as on the two-wheeler pack? Because yesterday there was that nervousness because of that UBS note that spoke about those price cuts. Sudarshan will join to give us some clarification on that. But your view on the stock?
No, I think it's fairly valued, and at a time when so much of competition is coming in on the electric vehicle side, at the same time, the numbers were not absolutely up to the street's expectation, and valuations also are pretty much fair. So let's see how this wedding season evolves for the two-wheeler companies. But at these levels, I think it's more or less fully priced. I wouldn't want to buy into. There's no trigger for the stock price to go up as well. But on the whole, I think it's fairly valued. So you may remain invested, but I don't think a fresh position should be initiated.
Dipan, a few other stocks. This new listing, Niva Bupa Insurer, I think it's up 30-40% in 2-3 days.
Yeah, Prashant, I'm sorry, I'm not tracking that company, so I wouldn't want to comment on it. But on the whole, I think view on insurance industry is pretty decent. I think good long-term growth dynamics over there.
What about this, the company called Black Buck? Again, recent listing. Sharp run-up last few days.
Yeah, Black Box. Yeah, that's an interesting company. And a few weeks ago, you were discussing about which are the companies benefit from the explosion taking place in the data center business. And this is one company which benefits from the data center, kind of capacity increases which take place over there. They provide the hardware and the architecture and all the networking equipment and then actual implementation for large Fortune 500 companies, data centers as well, and a lot of other commercial organizations. And large portion of the revenues come from the US market as well. And gradually they are moving up the value chain, which is reflected in higher operating profit margins as well. So very positive on this company. It just has run up a lot, so valuations are on the higher side, but it's a company definitely worth watching.
Got it. Dipan, Honasa again bombed out yesterday. Came back up. Promoters bought a little bit. I mean, I think it's just it's an indication to the market with that purchase shares. We see that happening. Any thoughts on Honasa? And the other one is life insurance companies. Again, stocks had fallen 20-25%, and yesterday SBI Life and HDFC Life and a few others did well. So your thoughts here?
No, see, I think that Honasa, we need to give it some more time and see how it actually evolves as well, because the numbers were very disappointing. And what I did not like is, the management should have communicated this thing in earlier conference calls that something like this is happening and they can expect a sharp decline in the profitability for these reasons. That would have been good kind of communication and transparency from that point of view. And now there's a whole host of uncertainty as to when the sales start to revive again. But definitely it's worth tracking Honasa, because within the FMCG space, there are very few categories left where there is decent growth. And the categories which Honasa is operating in certainly has got a good, I would say, runway for growth. So we're keeping it under watch. I think 1 or 2 quarters when the numbers are better, you should perhaps have a look at it. Coming to insurance companies, I think, they are great long-term plays and value will get created over time. But as I said, in terms of valuation, our preference is for LIC, where it's trading at a discounted enterprise value. And that also has corrected from its high. So I would, like to go with LIC. Our usual disclosure, we and our clients are invested in it.
Okay, so going with the LIC in insurance, yeah, I mean, even if there's some tightening of the bank assurance channel, I guess LIC is the one company that, will not be impacted. Got that, Dipan. Thank you very much for joining in.